All right, Sean, it looks like we are live. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us. I am Jeremy Butler, the Chief Executive Officer of IAVA, Iraq and Afghanistan Veterans of America, joined by none other than our Chief Operating Officer, Sean Ullman. Sean, why don't you introduce yourself? I've done a few.
For those of you that don't know me, I've been with IAVA for about 4 years now, and this time of year I'll pop up for some sort of call to action around like the Veterans Day experience, or doing parade stuff, or in this case, kind of a new initiative that we have that makes this process a little easier to kind of talk through versus kind of sending out like a long-winded documentation. So, I mean, if we're good to go, Jeremy, I'll kind of jump into a little bit about what we're doing. So, thank you so much for joining us. IAVA's ethos for the past 15 years has really been about building a community and putting a chance for camaraderie building outside of the military experience. And that's where we're sitting right now, as we're trying to figure out in 2020, how do we get that same camaraderie building experience that we've called upon to get the community together for so long. And we've done Veterans Day parades, usually on Veterans Day. We do our annual Heroes Gala the Thursday, usually before Veterans Day. And we, support and sponsor a lot of other events that happen around the country. And none of those are happening this year. And we were really starting to struggle and thinking about how we can really fulfill that aspect of our mission of getting the community together and finding a reason to build some in-person experiences as best we could in this world. And through the course of a little bit of brainstorming, we came up with this idea for a march walk experience that was virtual, that gave us a chance to do that same feeling without the same actual experience. And so, Jeremy and I butted our heads around, figured out how within 6 weeks we could throw something together that gave people a chance to get together virtually, to celebrate, and to remove a barrier in our space that has always existed really to some extent between civilians and veterans alike, and do something where we can get together in our community locally and rally our friends and family together to celebrate a community that really right now has been politicized probably more than they ever should have. Full disclosure on this, I am the civilian representing this conversation, right? So my family has already signed up. We're ready to go. We're standing by to rally and support and get together. And I'm happy to have Jeremy here with his incredible service to talk a little bit about kind of what we're thinking in the short term here.
Yeah, thank you, Sean. I think you touched on a few things. This idea was born out of COVID, as you said, kind of the necessity of, hey, we're not going to be able to do what IAVA has done for years, which is to bring veterans from around the country together in New York City for the biggest Veterans Day parade in the country, but also then encouraging veterans wherever they are to take part in their local parades. That's just not possible, as you said. And so, as you mentioned, we were trying to decide how can we come up with something where we can continue that spirit of camaraderie and togetherness that Veterans Day always brings. And I think this is a great idea for this year. But the beauty is this doesn't have to be just this year only. I think this is one of these ideas that really can live on forever. It's a way for veterans to find other veterans in their local community and get together with civilians, as you said, to bridge that divide and get out and do something fun. This year, certainly based on what the situation is in your community, your state, we obviously want everyone to do it safely. But again, that's kind of the beauty of it. It allows you to be flexible and it gives you several different opportunities in terms of how you want to take part. And maybe I'll talk about one and then Sean, I'll throw it back over to you. But sort of the big first one is, hey, take part yourself. You can go to IAVA.org. You'll get a pop-up for the virtual Veterans Day March, and you can register to take part. You're really not registering or committing yourself to too much. You're just saying, hey, I'm going to get out on Veterans Day. I'm going to walk a block. I'm going to walk a mile. I'm going to run, ruck. You can really decide how you want to do it. And if you want to turn it into a fundraiser, you can do that. And that's kind of step one on the multi-pronged part of how you can get involved. Sean, you want to talk about some of the other ways?
Yeah, and Jeremy, you've already signed up, right? So I think that's an example of kind of the second way we can get engaged here, right? So, a lot of folks out there, I think we're approaching 100 people now that have signed up for this in a short period of time. You guys have gotten together, you kind of thought about how different ways you can raise funds for this mission that we're working so hard every day to execute on. And we'll talk a little about some of the wins that we're having right now that are worth celebrating kind of at the end of this. But if you don't want to take on that burden and that you're not comfortable with the spot of kind of signing up and agreeing to do a march, on Veterans Day, you can always like go in there, find Jeremy Butler, sign up to support him and his march, and help to support the cause. So I think that kind of brings us up to like the why this came to be as meaningfully as it could be, right? So number one is in my 4 years here, I think Jeremy, in your almost 7 years here at IAVA, that we've had many different roles, and the number one question people ask us consistently is, how can I get involved? And our mission is easy in theory, but complicated in reality, right? So we do all this incredible work of aggregating these thoughts around what's needed from this community through our annual membership survey, through our polls, through our conversations, where we do incredible work in DC, trying to like pass national legislation in partnership with other organizations to make sure that we can get things done that are needed to be done, from the GI Bill to the Clay Hunt Save Act and down the line. We've done incredible work, and we're excited to be part of that. Then we also help individuals every day, and there's really not a spot where we've always been able to point someone to and say, here's how you can get involved. And I think this is going to be our first sample of exactly what that is. Here's how you can get involved. Like, you can go and sign up and you can follow the path through Save March, SAVMARCH.org, savemarch.org, for Support America's Veterans. And you can follow the path. You can see how you get involved. You can register and you can participate in this experience. And it's not much. It's not a big lift. It's not hard. And we will try to remove as much barrier to entry, right? So in our space, in our veteran community space, there's not a walk to cure diabetes experience. There's not a cancer cure walk experience. So we're trying to find a way to get that easy ask out there when people don't have an easy ask in our community. Like, how can you really transform the lives of America's veterans? I don't have the answer to that. We try every day to figure it out. But it would take a sizable contribution to be able to help even one individual with the kind of resources that they would need that we talk through our Quick Reaction Force program. But what you do have a shot to do here is to sign up, make a commitment, and ask your friends to support in a way we probably never have historically. And that's a low ask, whether you have 10 friends that can support you at $10 each, or 100 friends at $1 each. Like, we can get to the level of making a commitment of a baseline $100 per mile that we march on Veterans Day each. The theory here is that if we can find 2,093 folks, and you'll see that in our imagery for this event, that's 2,093 miles, the shortest distance from coast to coast in the United States, right? That takes you directly across the path. That's the map you'll see from Florida to San Diego. That's our shortest distance, and 2,093 was our number we went for. And that's the reason why you're gonna keep seeing that repeated. It's a distance that's achievable within this community. If 2,093 people each agree to march 1 mile on Veterans Day, we accomplished our goal, and we get to say, hey, we can aggregate some of those resources and move out there. So it was a long answer to other ways to get involved, but the number one thing is there's two paths really that are the easy ones on this one, which are the two individual paths that are the easiest right now. One is sign up, agree to march, get your friends, families to support you, to join you, to step up with you, and grab your flags, put a rucksack on if you want to kind of march for exercise in the day, or march for distance, or whatever you feel like doing. Or the other is to just say, hey, like, too daunting, to a big lift for a start, and I'd rather just find someone that I want to support and consider a contribution to help get them to their achieved goal that they've stated. So that's kind of the two real ways an individual can get involved.
And I would just add, sort of the third thing that you can either do on its own or in addition to all those others, is just help us spread the word. This really is, to Sean's initial point, it's about camaraderie. We're going into an election that's going to be divisive. It already is divisive. Part of our focus on Veterans Day and around Veterans Day, coming on the heels of an election, every 2 years, it's at least a midterm election. Every 4 years, it's obviously a presidential election. So there's always kind of a divisive attitude in the country coming into Veterans Day. And Veterans Day, we try and make it about bringing the country back together, helping them heal. So it seems almost like a long way off because we still have to get through the election itself, but start spreading the news about Veterans Day, about the fact that it's coming up, what the meaning is, what it means to you, and throw in, hashtag Save March, and let people know about this initiative that we're doing. Help us spread the word, even if it's not just to talk about this, talk about Veterans Day, talk about the fact that we are a country. We are united in more ways than we're divided, and we need to kind of remember that. I think that's something that's easily lost during these divisive times, and so that's another big part of this, and another part of why we always liked getting in together in person here in New York City. It's much harder to be divided as you are online when you're in person together. So even if it's a much smaller group this year, get some friends together, throw up the American flag, throw up your service flag. I'll be flying a Navy flag, trying to get out there. We can certainly have some inter-service rivalry, but let's really remember that we're rallying around the country as a whole this year on Veterans Day, and hopefully beforehand, frankly.
Yeah, and I mean that's obviously a great point. And one focus we always try to be is be on the right side of history. We want to be positive. Want to make sure that we're having as strong of a message towards the future as possible, regardless of divisiveness currently going on in some avenues of politics. But that aside, as a nonpartisan organization, we want to make sure that the work that we're doing, the resources that we're raising, are going towards helping us with our Big Six mission, Big Six priority. Words eluding me now, but our Big Six is policy priorities are the number one things we're doing in DC, and that's what we're trying to work on, right? Which includes everything from life-changing suicide prevention to the toxic exposures and burn pits accountability acts that we're working on. And Jeremy will talk more about that in a moment. But the other thing you can do is obviously connect together and do some things as a team or as a group. And with that, I'm kind of happy to say that without gala events, we're trying to get creative and get innovative in how organizations can work with us in this space. And so we're happy to announce that longtime partner of IAVA's, longtime investor in the veteran community, Pharma, has agreed to come on board with kind of a sponsorship for the event and to form a team of their employees to do exactly what we're trying to ask people to do. So there's other ways to do this. It's not just you alone. If you don't think, oh man, I'm one of 1% of the American population that served post 9/11, and I don't have anyone in my community that can understand where I'm coming from or can understand what I'm going through in my life right now, and I want to have a positive message to spread. Like, you can grab 4 or 5 friends, form a team in that same kind of and do the same experience. So we have a couple different ways to do that, but I'm happy to announce the first of what will be many ways of kind of longtime IAVA investors that are agreeing that this community is an investment and not a charity, and that we're making the commitment to join each other and make a positive impact. So that's another incredible opportunity that can come from this, is another way for organizations and partners to come together and make that investment to help us continue our mission, which is obviously the most critical aspect of what we're doing.
Yeah, and that's huge. And, big thanks to Pharma for leading the way on that. That's really helpful to us. And, it's going to fuel more wins, which is really what IAVA is all about. Hopefully, if you've been following IAVA's social media, you get our emails, you know about the work that we do in DC. I'm going to backtrack slightly. Sean talked about, there's not a whole lot of ways that we can leverage the power and the strength of our community on a frequent basis. One of the ways in which we do that is on Storm the Hill. We'll bring in veterans and civilian supporters from around the country, sometimes twice a year, sometimes 4 times a year. It sort of depends on what's going on Capitol Hill and what we're fighting for. The last time we did this was right before the pandemic really kicked off. So in March, we had an incredible group in Washington, D.C. for a week for our Storm the Hill, focusing on our Big Six priorities. And what I'm really excited about is that the great work that we did then really got around to a lot of different offices, got a lot of people energized and focused, members of Congress, on our priorities. We just had 2 huge legislative victories signed by the president on Saturday, just this last weekend, working together with Congress and with other veteran service organizations to pass the Commander John Scott Hannon Veterans Mental Health Care Improvement Act. That was almost 2 years in the making. Lots of VSO support, lots of civilian support, military support, really to bring about massive change, to bring help so that we can bring down the 20 a day that are dying by suicide. That was signed by the president on Saturday. And is really, I think, is going to have a long-term effect to really helping us stop this national tragedy that we're dealing with. The other part of that, another piece of legislation that was signed on Saturday, is the National 988 suicide, basically a 911 for mental health issues. So this isn't going into effect immediately. So I want to make sure people understand that this legislation is passed. It was signed by the president, but it's going to take maybe a year, maybe 2 years to fully come into effect, because there's a long chain of events that has to happen to get it locally set up around the country. But this is going to be a huge thing. There's always been the veterans crisis line that people could reach out to, 1-800 numbers that folks can call if they're a veteran or military member dealing with a mental health crisis. The problem is it's a 1-800 number. You had to remember it. I've got it saved in my phone, but that still requires scrolling down to get to it. Once this legislation goes into effect, anyone, veteran, civilian, it doesn't matter who, can dial 988 if they themselves or someone else around them is experiencing a mental health crisis, and they're going to get connected to a mental health professional. They'll have the option to press 1, maybe it'll be 2, I'm not sure, if you're a veteran, so that you can get someone that can sort of deal with your own personal experiences at a veteran. But again, it's going to be a national hotline that really is going to help in conjunction with the Commander Hannon Act that both of these were just signed. These are huge wins that would not have happened if the country hadn't come together, bringing in members to work with IAVA on Storm the Hill, and then so many other VSOs and civilian supporters coming together. And that's what, to bring it full circle, that's what the Save March is really all about, the Supporting America's Veterans March, not only bringing us together as a community, but maybe even helping IAVA raise some much needed funds so we can continue this work. The pandemic is going to end here eventually. We're going to bring veterans back to Washington, D.C., hopefully soon after the new Congress is seated in January, so that we can continue the fight. There's many more issues that we still need to be working on, and we're going to hopefully be back working in person with Congress soon. We're still doing it remotely now. We're all getting used to Zoom meetings and things like that. So the fight continues, but hopefully we'll be back in person soon.
And I'll piggyback on. No, it's a great point. And the 388 number is going to come around in a way that's going to help transform the discussion, because it'll be a lot more mainstream. However, it takes a long time to implement that. So if you or a family member or a veteran that is struggling with any kind of challenges right now, regardless of the challenge, please know that they can reach out to our Quick Reaction Force at quickreactionforce.org or call us directly. We're answer the phone within a few rings at 855-91-RAPID, and make sure that you get the resources that you need. Especially as it relates to anything that we can do to help you, or any challenges that you have as a veteran or a family member of a veteran. You have a program where you can talk to somebody that understands you and go through that process and hopefully get all the solutions that you're looking for, and know that you're not alone. And I want to make sure that's reiterated until the 388 number is up and running. This is a solution that you can reach out to, and is available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, with a peer that can help you. So I think that's important. And then Jeremy, I think the last thing we'll talk about real quick here is this isn't the only thing we're doing on Veterans Day. So we have incredible wins that we've had in our work in DC. We're having an incredible opportunity to get together with your friends and family on a nationwide virtual Save March. But we also have another thing happening on Vets Day. So why don't you end on that? And in the meantime, so thank you all for joining us.
Yeah, excellent. Good segue, Sean. So yeah, lots going on, as said. So also on Veterans Day, we're going to be rallying in Washington, D.C., led by Jon Stewart, famous comedian, as you well know, someone who's been fighting hard in Congress and around the country, first to bring healthcare to 9/11 first responders, and that segued into his understanding of the need to bring protection, healthcare benefits to service members, veterans that deployed overseas and were exposed to burn pits and other toxic exposures. So Jon Stewart, John Feel from the Feel Good Foundation, IAVA, Dr. David Shulkin, former VA secretary, many others, hopefully many veterans out there who support the need for Congress to come together and help pass legislation that is going to get healthcare benefits and healthcare for veterans who were exposed, not just to burn pits, but to the many toxic exposures that we're dealing with out there. So again, if you go to IAVA.org and check our media page, you'll see the press release we put out about that. It's going to be on November 11th on Veterans Day on Capitol Hill. More details to follow, but we're going to be out there in the morning. We're going to be socially distanced. We'll be outside. We encourage veterans and civilian supporters to help us have a big show of support for how important this is to the community. This is one of these issues that until recently was just really not that well known by the public, but the major impact that burn pits and other toxic exposures have had on the veteran community has been huge, continues to be huge, and there's just not much that the VA is doing about it. And so what we need is legislative action. We need Congress to come together and pass bills that will direct the VA to provide health care and benefits to those who are impacted by burn pits and other toxic exposures. So lots going on. Please do go to IAVA.org. Really hope you can support the Veterans Day March one way or another. Just get out there and march with your friends, family, and be safe. And we really appreciate everyone's time. Sean, any closing comments, or do we have any questions from the audience?
I don't have any questions yet, but I think, and if, I'll check with Hannah real quick and see if we do. I think the number one things are visit IAVA.org and visit our Big Six pages, and you can learn more information about everything we're doing. And that includes some take action links if you want to be able to email your representative, your member of Congress, and tell them about why this is important to you, maybe you personally or otherwise. When it comes to resources, be sure to visit IAVA.org for anything related to our incredible work in DC. On the back end, you can find out more information about the IAVA Save March at savmarch.org. And that'll tell you everything you need to do on how to register, different ways to ask your friends and family for support, or email your community through our social posts that are pre-programmed, pre-written for you. So you can just tweak them and put them out on your social media, which will be very helpful, I think, in kind of getting up and running. And lastly, on the 388 point, from my perspective, is you can visit quickreactionforce.org for any help you need, no matter how big or small it is. Like, every challenge is something we're standing by to help with. Don't want to do the form or go online, you can go to 855-91-RAPID with a phone number, and we'll answer that. I think those are the kind of big three things that I'd like to kind of reiterate as a takeaway from this. And if you're looking for help, you can always email us at donate@iava.org or info@iava.org, and someone on our team will answer, walk you through everything you need to do, and make sure that you have all the resources you need to have this Veterans Day be the celebration that it should have been intended to be, but because of COVID, we're doing a slightly different experience. So know those are all available to you.
Excellent summary, Sean. I appreciate it. And thank you, everyone, for watching. Please help spread the word. And as Sean said, go to IAVA.org and you're going to get a whole plethora of information, a lot of different ways that you can take action, literally and figuratively. As you said, there's legislation out there that we still hope to be able to get passed this year, even though we've had some big legislative wins this year. Probably the biggest one I want to just flag for people in closing is the Deborah Sampson Act to bring increased support and care for our women veterans. You can go to the Big Six, click on the Women Veterans tab, and you'll see the take action link, so you can send messages to your members of Congress to tell them to support this legislation so that we can get it passed. There's still time before the 116th Congress ends. We'd love to get more passed. Anything that doesn't get passed, we're going to be reintroducing it in the 117th come January, and we need your support to make all of this happen. So thank you again to everyone, and thank you to Sean. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, talk to you all later.